Is The Flash the greatest DC film ever made? Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris and welcome back to another video. So today I'm giving you my review of The Flash. I was able to see the film early. I have an out-of-theater reaction. This review will have no spoilers, so don't worry. The movie doesn't officially come out until June 16th. I have a lot to say though, so be sure to hit the like button, comment down below some of your expectations and predictions for this movie, as well as your thoughts on it if you're able to see the film early. And of course, subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified for all my future videos and help me reach my goal of 80,000 subscribers here on the channel. It would mean a lot. So this movie's had its fair share of issues. I'm not going to dive into all that behind-the-scenes drama regarding The Flash, and it's frankly a miracle that the movie came to be, that it ever actually got finalized and was released in theaters. And about a month and a half ago, the movie was screened early at CinemaCon to rave reviews, and there's been monumental hype for this movie going into it. So I tried to remove that from my mind as best as I could before I went into this movie and just said, you know what, let's just see what they got. I'm not gonna let this praise get to my head, and I can say this, it had me hooked for about the first 2/3. So I'm gonna start with everything I liked about this movie before I get into my fairly big issues as the film progresses. So I can't lie, the movie starts off to a pretty iffy or bumpy start. It kind of throws you right in the middle of the action, and in a way it's cool to see Barry Allen's Flash in the DC universe just doing his friendly neighborhood duty in a way, interacting with Batman and having to fight crime. Like they established early on, Barry Allen's just a normal dude, but he's also running around. He's got a job, he has like a love interest possibly, and he's got a pretty upsetting backstory as we would come to discover. So they set up the character really well in this movie. It's like we know him in other DC movies, but this one fully dives into his character, so I can really appreciate that and the fact that we actually almost know him. He kind of just was viewed as the Flash in other movies. This one made him Barry Allen and the Flash, and how he has to juggle those two things. So I'd say like the first 10-15 minutes of this movie were a little all over the place for me, but it found its footing rather quickly, and then I was hooked for at least an hour plus. I mean, it becomes this Back to the Future-esque storyline, as you guys saw from the marketing, and I was fascinated. I love a good time travel story. It always makes me question the ins and outs of how it could ever actually exist in reality, and I think that's what adds to the debate and discussion surrounding a film like this. Conversations will be had for years to come, and The Flash has this sort of Back to the Future trope that it's following, but it's totally aware of that, and I thought there was some great self-aware humor here. In fact, the humor all around landed for me. Ezra Miller had some lines that had me really laughing out loud, and I was surprised like the humor was a standout in this movie, something that's lacked in prior DC films. As you saw in the trailers, there's two Flashes in this movie, and Ezra Miller gives a great performance having to play two iterations of Barry. I can only imagine how difficult that must have been, and Ezra Miller did a great job bringing that to life. They're vastly different people, but at their core, they're still Barry Allen. And of course, I have to talk about the elephant in the room. Michael Keaton's back as Batman. This is the reason I was sold on this movie. It was what I was looking forward to most, and it did not disappoint in my opinion. We got some iconic Batman lines on the big screen. Keaton didn't miss a beat when it comes to playing this role, and he plays this sort of mentor figure in the film, really inspiring Barry and giving him some wise life advice. Honestly, I could have used a whole entire new Michael Keaton Batman film just because he didn't miss a beat playing the role and he really owned it. And then of course you got Sasha Calle, I believe is how you pronounce her name, as Supergirl. She doesn't have as crucial of a role as I thought, and I was a little surprised by that. However, with what she's given, I thought she ate it right up. I would love to see more of this character in a future project. I think that she really owned the role, and she was pretty damn badass. Like, her action fight scenes were some of my favorite and the most well shot in the movie, I would say. So like I mentioned up front, I was really on board with this time travel adventure for about the first, I'd say, 2/3 of the movie. And then unfortunately, for me at least, it went off the rails. Like, we were so close to the finish line, and the movie just completely derails itself in the final, I'd say 40 minutes of the movie. It turns into this over-the-top CGI mess. Like, it gets completely nonsensical at one point in the movie, and I just was confused as to why we abandoned what seemed to be the main plotline. In fact, my main issue with this movie is that it fails to resolve a lot of major through lines that are set up early on in the movie. Like, it abandons what seemed like the main mission of the film and the main plot, and it felt like there was no earned resolution to this movie. Like, the final 15-20 minutes, I was jarred with how rushed it all felt. Like, when the credits rolled, I was like, that's it? We should have at least 20 or 30 more minutes of movie. And on the one hand, I guess that's impressive because it's a 2-hour and 24-minute movie, so it went by fairly fast. But on the other, it's like, there's still a whole lot of movie left somewhere out there that we might never actually see. Like, to me, the final act of this movie worked so hard to tear down all the wonderful comic book awesomeness that was set up in the first 2 acts, which resulted in me feeling pretty dissatisfied with the overall experience. It left a sour taste in my mouth as I walked out of the movie theater, and I couldn't help but feel let down by how this one wrapped up. And it's not just the final 15-20 minutes, like, the whole 3rd act really just goes batshit crazy in my mind. And as the last portion of this movie unfolded, I was asking myself, like, what is the point of this? Like, you're working so hard to make everything and everyone's arc feel so meaningless. Now, Barry as a character I thought went on a great journey throughout the movie, but so much of what is important and crucial in this movie falls to the wayside at the end, which, again, left me really upset. And I mentioned how it gets a little over-the-top CGI messy at the end. That reigns true. It's almost like I was confused at what I was even looking at on screen. But I have to mention the fact that the entire movie, every single scene where Ezra Miller is playing 2 characters and there's 2 flashes on screen, you can blatantly tell one of them is Ezra Miller, the other is a body double. They CGI'd Ezra's face onto the character. It was really baffling, and I'm honestly shocked that they couldn't pull it off. You look at a movie like The Parent Trap, which I believe came out in like the 1990s. There's only one Lindsay Lohan, and they made it look flawless. For whatever reason, this movie failed to really nail the like body double or having 2 of the same characters on screen look. I even look at a movie like The Social Network, where you have the Winklevi, Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, and they look like the same person. They're on screen a lot. I'm surprised that a movie of this caliber, this big blockbuster Warner Brothers superhero movie, failed to execute and deliver on that. Really, every time they would be talking, like, you would have Ezra Miller's face moving like a normal human, and the other character, it looked almost like when they try and de-age someone before they mastered the de-aging technology. Like, they would move and you could see their eyes look all funky, like the nose damn near moved. It was really off, and I can't lie, that made it harder to connect with whichever version of Barry at that time was the CGI body double. Just didn't look like a real person. The CGI as a whole, very questionable in this movie. That's probably going to be the biggest nitpick most people have. But when it comes down to the story itself, it had me for about the first 2 acts, like I mentioned. There's great ideas here, even powerful themes of time moving on in life and like dealing with the consequences, whatever they may be. It's a very fascinating concept, but I don't think it was executed the best it could have been, as it falls off the rails at a certain point in this movie and ends up feeling frankly messy. It frustrates me because I really wanted to say I love this movie, but I come out and I can't help but think they could have done so much more with this film, made it even more compelling, and honestly made it make a little bit more sense in the end. They rush through some crucial emotional moments and don't really give us enough clarity with a lot of the arcs that were set up in this film, leaving me overall dissatisfied, though I will say it's entertaining. And I think hardcore fans of Keaton's Batman, DC, and just the Flash as a character will really enjoy this one, and it has its enjoyable moments, but overall, it didn't really move me as much as I thought it would. It is a decent enough watch, anywhere from a 3 to a 3.5 out of 5 stars, but this one's really not sitting well with me. The more I think about it, the more issues arise, and I don't see where this monumental hype came from before the movie came out. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse are in a completely different league than this movie. I don't know where this hype comes from. I also don't know why it's necessary. Like, I had a fun enough time, but I don't know if I would go back and like pay money to watch this movie again. I might check it out again on like HBO Max, but other than that, it was pretty disappointing, I'm not gonna lie. Keaton stole the show, wish we had more Supergirl, left a lot on the table, almost left me more confused about the future of DC than actually giving us any answers. Like, this movie was supposed to serve this whole reset, and I'm like, did it actually? There's a lot of questions still to be answered. But those are just my 2 cents on The Flash. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on this film, your expectations if you've not yet seen it. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to help me reach my goal of 80,000 subscribers here on the channel. It would mean a lot. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, see you guys later.